Welcome to another episode of Tuning In with Bob Lancer and
Greg Nielsen, Dr. G. I think
Dr. G.
it's at number 15. I think it's 15 already.
I think it's 15. And
We're
so,
rolling.
so how would you summarize what are these podcasts about, Greg?
In my view, and the wording that I would first comes to mind, we're focusing in on the, what would you call it? A synthesis of different ways of functioning in everyday life using energy wisely, developed by Isidore Friedman and shared with us as his students. And we're trying to share that with other people. I mean,
Yep.
something to that effect.
Yeah. Presenting our interpretation,
Hmm.
application, experience, results of Isidore
Yes,
Friedman's wisdom teaching called Organics. And this is the
yes,
new book.
yeah,
We have this little bookmark of this little Kabbalah tree of life
nice.
bookmark that I have where we're going to be
Yep,
focusing today. We're going to carry on today with what Isidore called right speech. We could call it
yes.
conscious speech. We planned on doing it last week, but we ended up spending a lot of time on thought, the
Yeah, we
power
just
of
went,
thought.
we went our way that would seem meaningful at the time. Yeah,
Yes. And so I think you'd like to begin with a short little poem. It's so dense, this
yes,
little poem of Isidore's on right
yeah.
speech. So Greg is going to read it, and
Here we
then
go.
then we will interpret it.
Okay. Right speech by Isidore Friedman. Right speech, right glance. Order the animals inanimate in life's cosmic dance. Right tone, right state in daily life. Grow strength and harmony without mindless strife. Emotional thinking the animal's way. Bestialize the mind in hell, does one stray. Reason, attention, and order's light. Heal, body, mind, make everything right.
All right. So let's start at the beginning. So we have
Mm-hmm.
right speech, right glance.
Mm-hmm.
The first line. What does right glance mean to you in this context?
Okay. Glance refers to me, at least in my association, the ability to see, the seer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right glance. It's not just I'm glancing over there automatically going, oh, I guess it's sunshine out there. I'm paying attention more in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of ways you can say that, being mindful, being conscious. So it's when you use it, right doesn't mean like right and wrong. It just means it's wise.
Mm-hmm.
Wise to glance appropriately. And sometimes you need to glance. It has to be a quick awareness using everyday in the moment mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
It can make other people uncomfortable if you sit and stare.
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it has to be right glance. You
Mm-hmm.
just get a quick flash.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take much. If you're aware, less than a second, you can kind of what's going on over there, or
Mm-hmm.
behind you, or over here, and to the right or left. So
Sure.
that's how I would take it.
Mhm. Yeah, and
But
I think in the context of speech, of
mm,
communication,
yeah,
right glance, which he goes into very deeply in the chapter, is
hmm,
right look, looking at myself, looking at the other
mm,
person, being aware of the environment that we're having a conversation in, noticing how long it's taking me to get to my point. Right?
hmm,
So
yes,
really just conscious speech, speaking with awareness of myself, the other person, the relationship between where
yes,
we are, right? So that I'm picking up on the signals of how the other person's responding. And I'm also noticing, how am I spending my attention, time, and energy in this conversation? While I'm speaking about, sports or the weather, there's nothing wrong with those things.
no, no,
But there are times when there are more important things to really be focused on.
yeah, and also
So, yeah.
you're not necessarily, like you say, the awareness of yourself, the other person, the connection between.
Mhm.
So it gets into the whole thing of listening when, and then speaking in a kind of rhythmic way that seems to be, that is, not even seems to be conscious or
Mhm.
more aware.
Mhm.
So, but there's so much more here, so we can
Yeah.
keep
So right.
going.
So right speech and right glance, meaning I guess being aware in the present moment,
Yeah.
because, one of Isidore's favorite words is the word function.
Hmm.
And speech functions. When we're speaking, what does it mean that it functions? It means that it brings about some kind of results, some kind of consequences. And if I'm not speaking in line with cosmic laws, for example, right, the consequences of my speech are going to be, relatively negative, right?
Yeah. In the second line, it goes into that.
Okay,
Yep.
so the second line is, so the first line, right speech, right
Hmm.
glance,
Hmm.
order the animals inanimate in life's cosmic dance. So what do you think he means by order the animals? Right
Oh,
speech, right glance, order the animals.
well, to me, symbolically speaking, animal energy, and this is not to degrade animals, it just means that do you want to be a human being or do you want to copy animals in your nervous response,
Mhm.
as Korzybski talks about? When you're using right speech, right glance, right awareness in the moment, you're adding another word to structure, function, order. There's it starts to order the situation, order the events in a way that seems to be natural and energetically aware.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure you might want to interject inanimate. I'm not,
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
animate, there's inanimate, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I would say for the first part where it says that right speech, right glance, order the animals, the tarot portrays that pretty nicely right here.
Yes,
Right
yes.
in card eight, where
Hmm.
where the woman, we can call her Sophia, meaning wisdom,
Hmm. Yeah.
taming the lion, the energy, the animal forces within us, the
Hmm.
greed, the lust, the I gotta win, the competitiveness, the envy, the jealousy, the anger, the frustration, right? The fears. When we're speaking consciously, we can actually tame those forces and put them to work for us
Hmm.
rather than being destroyed by those forces.
Yes,
And
I
I
totally
think
agree with that.
Yeah, and I think the inanimate, it tends to refer, I guess, to them, I guess, the mineral kingdom, which
Okay,
we
there you
could,
go.
which we could say is animate. Everything seems to be alive,
Yeah.
but but right speech orders not only the forces, the energies, the drives within us when we're speaking rightly, and we're going to talk about what that exactly means. But we
Hmm.
already know that it means speaking consciously, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
An example of unconscious speech is where someone gets so wrapped up in the information they want to convey or reflecting on what happened to them in the day that they're not even paying attention to how much time they're spending, how much energy they're spending, how they're impacting their listener, how they're impacting the rest of their day. Because if you speak unconsciously, you can be exhausted after that, and you don't have the energy to handle what you need to handle functionally. So the inanimate objects is, to me, it's like, and Isidore goes into this, where as we're communicating, as we're speaking, we're emitting a force field,
Hmm.
an energy pattern. And that energy pattern can actually like have an effect upon your car,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If you're speaking in sort of chaotic, frenzied, discombobulated ways, disconnected ways, there's a chaotic energy that goes into, your microwave oven, your
Hmm.
refrigerator, your car, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Things,
yeah.
inanimate objects, machinery can start breaking down, technology can have problems.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sensitive people have actually noticed that happening in their lives.
Oh,
When
yeah.
energy's off, they notice that, the light doesn't work, and then they get back in center and then the light works mysteriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right speech,
You start to resonate on a frequency that actually creates complications or resonates with complications or
right.
difficulties. Yeah.
Or as he says, it orders, right speech orders those things. So things work better, people work better. It has an energetic influence on everything for the better, creating
Hmm.
order and harmony and right fit.
And that brings in a whole thing when you are doing that more, that ordering conscious speech, right speech. It's beneficial not only to yourself, but to other people.
It
Sometimes
can
they'll even
heal.
say, I feel so much better after we talked,
That's right.
something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
because there's been a little bit more conscious speech.
Yeah. It could be healing.
Yeah.
Just having a conversation with someone and really hearing what they say, because you have right glance, you're paying attention, helping them to just feel really understood,
Hmm.
that they're really communicating and that you really hear them and there's a connection, that can have a healing, ordering influence on their bodies, on their minds, on their
Hmm.
emotions, on their functioning, on their results, on their whole life. You become like an energy healer just by speaking consciously.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure you have this experience sometimes or often where people sometimes they talk and talk and talk, maybe 5, 10 minutes, whatever, but you don't really say much. And they start to feel better. Like you kind of you brought that up in a way there,
Mhm.
and it makes a difference. They really feel connected. They feel
Yeah.
relaxed. They feel like they've let off some steam, whatever way you want to put it. Yeah.
Because you're getting you if you have right glance when you're speaking, you get a sense of what this person needs to hear, or
Yeah.
maybe this person just needs to talk. And so it's a healing influence. And then the reverse or the converse is also true. You know,
Yeah.
having a conversation with someone and their speech is chaotic and nervous and frenzied, it can shake you up.
Oh
It can
yeah.
rattle your energy field. And your
Hmm.
energy field, affects the colloidal system, affects the physical body, affects
Yeah.
the way you function in daily living. You can walk away from a conversation and your level of functioning is lower, your level
Hmm.
of results are lower if you're not very careful.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So what
true.
about so I'm sure you have encountered those kind of unconscious conversations. How do you protect yourself from the chaotic unconscious speech pattern of another person?
Okay. Well, we're gonna go back to the first line. Conscious speech, right speech, and awareness in the moment. Recently, when I visited my son, I took the dog for a walk. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but walking down the way, I have the little poop bag to pick up. So we're being thoughtful of our neighbors and everything like that. But as I go into this one yard, a lady runs out of her house screaming at me to don't let that dog do that. Now, fortunately, I looked at her, and obviously she was somewhat, what's the word? Not in the order of the animal.
We get it on the nonverbal level.
But yeah, I fortunately had some training. Rather than argue with her, I basically disarmed the situation. I said, "Fine, we won't do that, and I'll let my son know and his wife."
Right.
She,
So you maintained your peace and poise very
yeah,
consciously, very deliberately,
yeah,
and you didn't react in ways to stir up even more chaos from her.
yeah. I
And
had a
it's a
minor
bit ironic,
reaction.
though, when
Yeah,
if you look at the way she was functioning,
yeah,
she caused herself more harm in her reaction than in
yeah,
peeing or pooping on her lawn.
yeah. And then you could see, and of course, in actual, nothing really happened. It was some more in her mind and her motion. But you could see when I was not that what's the word, disturbed, let's put it that way, by it. She went like that,
Hmm.
like, oh,
Taken
oh.
aback.
Yeah, it took her back a little bit because I didn't wasn't defensive, I wasn't screaming back, and so on and so forth. I said, don't worry, I picked up the poop if you want. I didn't say
You
if you
didn't take
want to
it
say.
you didn't take
No,
it personally.
didn't take it personally.
Now that's an important factor
Yeah.
for not getting caught up in the reactions of another person's, behavior or speech, just to not take it personally. You want to take it functionally. In
Yes,
other words, I
functionally,
want to,
energetically.
yeah,
Yeah.
energetically, I want to handle the situation in a way that actually works for me instead of taking it personally, having a big altercation to prove how tough I am, you
Yeah.
know, and then two people just become like just a pool of exhaustion,
Yeah,
you
it
know.
would have ruined, not ruined, but
Yeah,
it would have disturbed for a few minutes or an hour or half an hour
yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
Who knows? It could be even serious. A person can get so rattled they,
Yeah. Oh,
walk
yeah.
off the curb and have an accident.
That's right, right.
The-
I can go to chapter 2 on it. There's several chapters, but that was the main first chapter. But the gentleman across the street witnessed it. So he calls me over. He's around 80, nice guy. And he tried to make me feel calm and relaxed. And I already was that way. I mean, so I had to kind of go in neutral. speech-wise, rather than, and I didn't really want to carry on with the conversation about it. Although I'm describing it now, at the moment, I
Right.
really didn't want to go on and on and on.
Make a
Oh,
big
that
deal.
lady, exactly. Thank you.
Right,
And
right.
so I was able to transition. Very nice gentleman. I mean, was meant well, but
Well, it's kind of a reflection. He was kind of an outer reflection of your own
yeah,
inner state, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
right? Within you, you were modifying, moderating, calming, centering, and here
Hmm.
you manifested this gentleman who was trying to do the same thing, even though you didn't need it at that.
Yeah, it was wonderful and it was nice for the neighbors. And here I come to visit and he'll recognize me next time. So there's a long, strange chain
Yeah,
reaction of
yeah.
things that went on.
Yes,
But
yes, yes, absolutely. And you
yeah,
and it's whatever the event, however someone talks to you or doesn't talk to you, it's
hmm.
up to us to handle it in a way that is functional, that's beneficial for us. And that always comes back to maintaining your peace and poise,
Yeah,
being reactive.
and going on to another chapter. And then
Okay.
later, the next day, I'm going to take the dog out. So I know that that's where the house is. Yeah, I was extra aware. Just take a ready to go anytime. I even actually walked on the street on her yard area, sidewalk. I stepped on the street, walked past her yard, went back on the sidewalk. This way,
Oh, now if she observed you, that probably would have made her very frustrated because she wanted to attack somebody. She was carrying all this rage, right?
I figured I was solving the problem before we had it.
That's right. That's
A
right.
little bit,
Because
yeah.
you didn't take it personally.
No, no,
You want to maintain, wherever you are, you want to maintain order and harmony and peace because
yeah.
in that energy frame, you can
Hmm.
receive, wise insight into
Yeah,
how should I actually handle the situation? What's really important to me? When we have a strong emotional reaction, it seems like what we're reacting to is the most important thing in the world.
yeah. We do
Get
get
really
caught up sometimes. Yeah,
yeah, if you get really centered and calm and you really ask yourself, now, what's really important? It's
yeah,
probably not to tell off the neighbor,
yeah.
probably something more meaningful.
Although I did find out later that my son's wife sometimes likes to kind of rub it in her face. She's a
Hmm.
little bit like rebellious.
Yeah.
And he's kind of with me. Like, so when
Right.
we went by the third time, the third day, he said, "This is what Dad did. This is what you tend to do. This is what I do. I think we should kind of just keep it calm, like we live here." And but he wasn't accusatory. He was very friendly
Right.
about it. Yeah,
It's
he
even
almost jo-
even being compassionate to the woman.
yeah. Oh, I
It's
was. Yeah,
something she can't handle,
yeah.
so why
I,
push
I
it
did
to
fe-
the
I
edge?
did feel that compassion as I got past it, the irritant, and then oh
Oh,
yeah, oh,
yeah.
and then and I go, yeah, wow, she must be suffering
Oh,
horribly, horribly.
I
Yeah.
mean, if she can't handle that. I didn't mean to choke you. I mean to
No, I'm
break
okay.
dance. I noticed you had the water in there.
I mean, she was kind of giving me shit, basically.
Well, she expected you to give her shit, so it was
Right.
yeah. All right. So
Anyway,
now if we go to the next level, it takes it to another
yeah.
level. We take it to the
Hmm.
next line rather. Takes
Yeah.
it to the level. It says so right tone, right state. So now we're talking
Mm.
about right
Yeah.
speech. So right tone.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? How do you apply right tone in your conscious speech when you're conscious in speech?
Yeah. So tone is sound.
That's right.
So there's sound. If you're looking at someone and you're noticing wherever your environment is, if you're speaking too loud, or
Okay.
too intense, or what's too rapidly,
Okay.
your tone starts to change. It gets more staccato kind of a tone
Yep.
as opposed, and some people that's irritating.
It
So
can
you
hit the force field, right?
you
And
kind of want
I remember when I was a kid and my mother or father would say, don't use that tone of voice with me.
yeah, yeah.
You can have like an authoritative tone or a
Yeah.
condescending tone or a
Hmm.
condemning tone or accusatory tone or an impatient tone.
Yeah.
So when you're conscious of the tone,
Hmm.
conscious of the energy influence in the situation, and you can create accord and agreement and
Hmm.
harmony
Yeah.
using consciously using a tone of voice that is working, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we can talk too softly, and that's
Hmm.
annoying to somebody.
Yeah.
If you give somebody instructions and you're speaking too softly and they just nod like this, but they
Hmm.
don't really hear it, right? So
Oh yeah.
a conscious tone, how many people, actually are aware and using their tone of voice consciously and functionally in
Hmm.
a verbal interaction? Probably not many, other than maybe people who were trained, had voice training.
I know that, yes, a good point. I know that in Buddhism, and right speech is one of the Eightfold Paths in Buddhism. They talk about speaking with kindness. That kind of comes, well, not even kind of, it does come into your voice. People
Right.
feel there's a kindness there. You're not being harsh. You're not being accusatory, all the things that you mentioned. And
Scolding,
yeah, and there's just,
making them feel like they're getting it wrong.
mhm. And you're willing to adjust because your kindness was willing to adjust. I didn't hear quite what you said. Could you repeat that? Fine, you repeat it. Your
Right.
kindness, you have kindness about it, like as opposed to going, I told you that. How come you can't listen? I
Right.
mean, yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
yeah.
And so
So,
once that tone comes in between a parent and a child, or between a couple, or a business situation, any kind of relationship, you if your just tone is just an automatic reaction,
yeah.
it's dangerous. It's costly.
Oh, yeah.
Costly. You can trigger an altercation for no reason. You can
Hmm.
turn a potential ally into an adversary.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I can
For
definitely
people's
say in my
feelings.
past, and not too much in the present, and hopefully not in the future, less argumentative ways of speaking with people. It wasn't that often, but it would come up from time to time. And it did cause quite a, I don't know, what would you say, long-term disturbance?
Mhm. Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
not a good healing energy between the people. Yeah.
Especially with children, with sensitive
Oh,
children.
yeah.
If you speak in a way that, it can make them feel attacked, feel
Oh,
unworthy,
yeah.
feel not good enough, feel afraid, lose their trust, their emotional trust.
Hmm.
And so, the thing we're really overcoming here is people will often say, well, you made me talk that way. Like
No.
if you were listening, I wouldn't sound so impatient. It's
Mm.
your fault if I'm coming off in an angry, impatient manner.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, no, wait, it's whatever is coming at me, I need to be conscious of my tone
Hmm.
to make it function. So it
Yeah.
works for me, it works for the other person, it works for the relationship,
Hmm.
it works.
Yeah.
So practicing, right glance is also, like you said, right listening, not
Hmm.
just listening to the other person,
Yeah.
listening to how I sound, how I'm
Mm.
coming off.
That's a really good point you're making right there, is just paying attention to the sound of your own voice,
Right.
even making that an exercise and
Yes.
just listening to yourself speak, whether it's we're speaking on Zoom, or you're speaking on the phone, or you're speaking in person, or if I'm teaching, what tone of voice am I using? What's
Yeah.
more effective? What's less effective? I
You
know
could turn your
sometimes,
students off with the wrong
oh
tone.
yeah,
You turn them off, and then an
yeah,
unconscious teacher will say, well, it's their fault. They got to get over it. It's their responsibility to learn,
hmm,
instead of,
right.
I'm making it more difficult than it needs to be. I
I
want
know
to facilitate the process.
when you teach teachers how to teach, when I was at the university, you talk about how to use teacher's voice. So there has a certain degree of authoritativeness without being egotistical,
Right.
something to that effect. But also sometimes certain classrooms can get out of hand,
Mhm.
and teachers learn how to raise the volume of their voice to a point where it can be slightly scary.
Mhm.
I'm not going to demonstrate it now, but
Thank you.
you're st
I
I don't want to blow the circuits here, but
don't want to be
but
scared.
but but you're not angry. You're not really
Right.
angry, but
Right.
they get their attention, and they kind of
Yes.
appreciate
Sometimes,
it.
yeah. Sometimes it
Yeah,
could snap a person out of it, out of whatever
exactly.
trance they're in.
Yeah,
Sometimes when kids are running around loud, the only way
yeah.
to be heard is to raise your voice, but it doesn't become a personal matter.
No, no, it's something you do you do it consciously. That tone becomes appropriate for the moment. So you're not like, trying to kill a mosquito with a shotgun. I mean,
Yeah.
Izzy used to talk about,
Or
using too much
canon.
force. Yeah, cannon. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we have right tone and we have
Mhm.
right state.
Yeah.
So what does right state have to do with right speech?
Well, you talked about it quite a bit there. You're paying attention to what state you're in. So if you lose consciousness of your current state and you start running up, going on automatic. Say, for example, I was taking the dog out. I have to hurry. We're going somewhere. Can you take me out? That would
Right.
change my state. And it's possible I could have overreacted to the situation that arose. But
Mhm.
I was a wonderful day. I'm enjoying it. I'm not in a rush. So my state was pretty stable, relatively speaking.
Right.
And so you're paying
Relatively
attention
speaking. Right.
what's going on here as part of the threefold forces in the law of three.
Self, other,
Yeah.
relationship.
Yourself, the other, and what's going on in between.
And I think right state also applies to the right state of me as a speaker.
Hmm.
Like I have to, if I'm in an uptight, anxious state, it's really best for me not to speak because
Hmm.
my tone is going to be off. My
Yeah.
words might be a little harsh and sharp. My the ideas, the things that I say might be needlessly cutting or harsh.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
If I'm in a
Yeah.
centered, balanced state, right, I can communicate effectively. I can make a point. I'm not
Hmm.
trying to kill a mosquito with a cannon.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm off, the odds are my speech is going to be off. My way of communicating is to be off.
There's definitely was times where I didn't do that, but as I got practice the organics and the right speech, I would wait. I know that I'm a little too irritated. So just talk about it tomorrow. Talk
Right.
about it later. Calm down. Let go of your pressure point of the past, your automatic reaction. Let it cool off.
Mhm.
Count to 10, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And then at that point, your right state becomes stronger, and what you need to say or not say starts to become clearer. At least that's what I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So you really know what it is you want to say,
Hmm.
as opposed to just shooting from the hip from an emotional reaction.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So right state, right tone, right glance.
Hmm.
Right glance is being aware. Right tone is being aware of the tone of voice you're using. Right
Hmm.
state is noticing, am I in the right state to have this conversation in a,
Yeah.
in a, in a constructive, to have a constructive conversation right now. And so it behooves us to practice maintaining right state so
Yes.
we can communicate as needed.
You brought up a really good point because sometimes people say, well, hey, do you want to get together tonight? Or, no, tonight to me means not past 8 o'clock usually, but I'll sometimes say no. I'm kind of recuperating, regenerating. I don't say the word regenerating, but
Mhm,
I need to rest up for tomorrow because I'm teaching early in the morning. So
mhm.
you start to think about your state ahead of time a little bit. You prepare because you need to have that energy or right state energy available to do a decent communication effort. Yeah.
So right state is the foundation for right function.
Hmm.
Be able to speak functionally, constructively, clearly, accurately, conveying what really needs to be said, having good judgment about what to say, what not to say, to not say too much. You don't want to tell a 5-year-old there's no Easter bunny, because you're in a hurry and you're not paying attention to what you say.
Bob, I didn't even know that.
There
No.
actually is an Easter bunny.
Yeah, but
Okay,
yeah,
so right glance,
okay, go ahead.
right glance, right tone, right state. So then
Hmm.
it says right tone, right state in daily life grow strength and harmony without mindless strife. He's giving us a formula.
Yeah,
That's what I love about organics, about Izzy's
yeah.
teaching.
Hmm.
Specific formulas to produce beautiful results.
Hmm. Again, if you do the things that this says and you practice them so they become somewhat of a conscious habit,
Mhm.
you're going to
Right.
actually feel
Builds the strength.
stronger
Yeah, it builds the strength.
energetically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's stronger energetically, and it also builds the strength to practice.
Hmm.
to maintain right state, you know, to be aware of your tone, rather than going unconscious. Each time you practice being aware of your tone, you strengthen your ability to be aware of your tone.
Yeah.
Each time you practice just being more attentive during the conversation, you build the strength to be more attentive in conversation. And what can you expect from that? You can expect harmony
Mm-hmm.
without mindless strife. Like the lady
Right.
who reacted with to your dog, that was
Mm-hmm.
mindless strife.
Mindless strife.
If she wanted you not to do that, she could have easily just called me and say, "Hey, listen, neighbor, I love your dog, but please, I'd really appreciate it if he doesn't go on my lawn."
Exactly.
She would make
Done.
a point,
Done.
accomplished it without mindless strife.
And of
And,
course,
and what is
mindless strife to me too is sometimes after a inharmonious connection or incident experience, the mind can start creating the scenarios that are, I'm going to get back at that person.
should have
Uh,
said this, and I
you
should
know
have.
what? When they're sleeping tonight, I'm going to take the dog out over there, and I'm going to
I'm gonna go take a poop on her lawn right now, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Revenge can come in there, hostility, anger. So what? Because your mind can start creating scenarios, stories
Yep.
that really are not beneficial to anyone.
And it means that while you're thinking about all this emotional thinking, which maybe we'll get into,
Yeah,
as you're going into this emotional thinking, what are your priorities again?
yeah.
What are your real responsibilities? What is it that you really want to accomplish today or in your life? What's really important to you?
Hmm.
You become mindless, you lose that.
Yeah,
And then one thing I didn't know until I studied organics was it's not just that the strife is unpleasant, conflict, discord between, it's also, again, it sets up an energy field of chaos.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's
that's
downward
dangerous.
spiral, the downward spiral.
Downward
Yeah.
spiral, and there could be accidents and mishaps, and this doesn't work, and it can
Hmm.
affect you, it can affect the people you love, it can affect, just depending on how much power you have, that's the
Oh
kind
yeah,
of effect it has.
yeah,
Whereas when you're living in harmony and in right state, you're radiating a beautiful, harmonious force field. The people around you are experiencing more peace, more clarity, and the human body is not designed for stress and strife because that tears the body apart.
yeah.
Human body is designed for peace and love and joy because that nurtures the physical body.
Hmm.
Physiological system works better like that. So
Yeah.
people who live in strife on a continual basis are probably having some health problems,
Oh yeah,
financial problems, marital problems,
sure.
psychological problems.
Strife attracts strike. Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So then, oh, okay. So then the next one is emotional thinking, the animal's way.
Hmm.
So let's talk about emotional thinking. Isidore wrote a lot about emotional thinking. He says,
Hmm.
emotional thinking, the animal's way. What does
Yeah.
emotional thinking mean to you?
Well, to me, it would mean that I kind of was describing it. Your mind can start going on emotional thinking scenarios. I was using the word scenario. You start almost making things up. It just if you
Yeah.
observe your mind, you can start blaming yourself or blaming the other person. It
Hmm.
has nothing to do with life facts.
Hmm.
And you can create all kinds of weirds. I mean, I've watched myself do it and I go, what the heck? That's
Hmm.
not even close to anything. You catch yourself, you start to go, wait a minute. So you can let that go, but if you get caught up in that emotional thinking, you can go on and on and on. I had one incident years ago when I went to Costa Rica. I won't go into the whole story, but I was up all night with emotional thinking. I got so
Anger?
into it.
Was it
Yeah,
anger?
anger. Oh, anger. Yeah,
Mhm.
emotional, and what I'm going to do to get back at the person.
Right. Right.
And even as I'm doing it with the training I've had, this is at least 15 years ago, I knew that I was doing it, but
Right.
the momentum was so overpowering.
Mhm.
Every time I would go like, just let it go to sleep. I couldn't do it.
Right. So emotion,
Yeah.
when emotion is running your thinking,
Hmm.
what is not guiding your thinking? Like, what do we want to actually guide our thinking?
Well, I would look at the energy of the situation, look at the facts, facts meaning life facts. This is what really happened. By the way, I had inaccurate life facts. I found out later that day, next day.
In other words,
But
you were angry at nothing.
exactly, it was almost laughable. It was it was a big lesson.
Mhm.
I was so drained. What was your
Mhm.
question again?
When emotion drives thinking,
Yeah, yeah,
right? It could be like, like a little kid who can't go to sleep because they're expecting Santa Claus to come,
yeah. There you
thinking
go.
about how it's going to be or how my birthday party is going to be, or
Yeah, I
what we,
wasn't in the moment for sure.
so yeah, so what
I was
is it?
not in the moment.
So if we don't want emotion to drive our thinking,
Hmm.
because it might take us off the path of relevance of what's really
Yeah,
important to us,
yeah.
what do we want to guide our thinking?
I would say if I was more aware in that situation, there's a lot of things I could have done to calm myself down, you could say. Uh, I can go through a litany of different things. Get up and walk around, but do it consciously, like a walking meditation. Do some rhythmic breathing. Change your energy follows attention, so you could change your attention direction.
Or do the method or something like that. But
Yeah.
all of that is to quiet me down
Hmm.
so that in my calm state, I can consider what should I think about right now?
Hmm.
It's a very
Yeah.
interesting question, because it kind of quiets the mind right away. It's like, okay, here I am thinking about this person who annoyed me or
Yeah.
this the situation I'm looking forward to or I'm dreading. But wait a minute, what should guide my thinking right now? What
Hmm.
should I think about? Should I be thinking? Is this the appropriate time to be thinking? And what that does is it opens me up to a higher level of intuitive guidance.
Yes. You get more detached from the emotional thinking, non-identification, if you want to put it that way, which opens up the possibility of, like you described just now. Yeah.
A more intelligent use of my mind
Hmm. Yeah.
so that my mind can work for me. What do I want to think about? Well, if I bring about what I think about, or if my life goes in the direction of my attention, now I have to, well, what is it that I really, really want?
Hmm.
If I'm thinking about that, I'm not being driven by the emotional thing. Whereas if you're very emotional, you think what you want is to punch that guy in the face. And you
Hmm.
go, that's not really what I really want to be able to do is to provide for my family and
Well,
create a beautiful book or that kind of thing.
actually, I didn't think about hitting him in the face. No, I had several lawyers I was going to hire, but
Well, yeah, I'm an
no,
Aries, so that's
no, I'm just kidding.
okay. So emotional thinking,
Yeah.
the animal's way, which takes us back to this image in the Tarot.
Hmm.
So what does that mean to you? Emotional
Well,
thinking and then the animal's way.
I go back to Korzybski there when he talks about learning not to copy animals in our nervous response because we are not animals. We are structured to be human, which means we have a cerebral cortex. We have the opportunity to be conscious in the moment and be conscious of our consciousness. So we're not running on instinct, and there's nothing wrong with instinct for an animal. It's fantastic,
Mhm.
as long as it's healthy, especially or wise for them. They're hungry, eat.
Yeah, but if my Chihuahua,
Yeah,
tries to attack a Great Dane because
yeah, that's a
it's not
problem.
going to be a pretty picture.
So the animal way would not be appropriate and functional for survival in that situation, possibly for that Chihuahua. So we just don't want to copy animals in our nervous response. And that would be more fight or flight,
Mhm,
attack or retreat. It's
mhm,
very dualistic
mhm.
generally for most animals,
Yeah,
and that's probably appropriate for them for survival. But for
right.
human beings, we have the opportunity not to do that.
Well, we can take in a larger context.
Yeah,
We can
exactly.
consider the consequences
Hmm.
rather than just being impelled by a drive.
Yeah.
And then we can consider, is that really the consequence that I want? Is that really how I want to expend my energy? Is this the best use of my energy, of my power in this situation? If I'm emotional, I can't even see straight. I can't even
Yeah.
with a wise approach to the situation.
And it really explains how somebody can have road rage. Have you ever heard about that, road rage? Some people just, it just consumes the person to the point where they can't see straight. They
I
can't
remember
feel straight.
I was driving once in a highway, or no, it was a street, and this guy opens his window and he screams out the window and he screams at me, "You're the problem." At the top of his lungs,
Yeah, yeah.
"You're the problem."
It's really sad,
Not
but
realizing how he's functioning.
hmm
How is he affecting himself with that state? You
yeah,
know, he's going to be depleted of energy. He's going to go home annoyed. He's going to yell at his wife, or he's going to get the karma, and his wife is going to tell him he's the problem.
yeah.
And
It
what is he sending
perpetuates.
out? What
Yeah.
is he sending out into the atmosphere? What kind of energy? It brings
Yep.
everybody closer, to that animal reaction pattern
The animal's
instead of
way.
instead of responding based on context of situation. And what
Hmm.
do I really want more than just blowing off some steam? What's
I
more?
know one of the things I've done over the last few years, because I'll sometimes get irritated because you have people visiting the town from other states and they're driving around. And there was a time when it would trigger an irritant, not a major thing where I want to attack anybody, but an emotional irritation, where I could see my mind was starting to go, can't they just, now if I see them, I say, you know what? They don't know where they're going. They're lost. Sometimes I just pull over and just wait about 3 minutes because they don't know where they're going. But leave them alone. Don't get caught up in that thing. Just
How do you benefit from that?
I benefit because I restore myself to uh, well, the word that they used here, right state. And if you catch yourself and do something like that, you return to right state very quickly when you catch it early on. Plus, sometimes it was nice just to stop and be more in the moment right where I was stopping and not be caught up in the driving scene and creating words in your mind like those out of state drivers, they don't know where they're going. They never put
Right,
on their blinker or
right.
whatever.
And then if
So,
you're and not realizing that, just like the lady screaming out of out of her
yeah,
house, it's like not realizing that my complaining, my criticism, my anger, my frustration is hurting me. It's
hmm
like I'm so busy focused on how they're behaving, I'm
yeah,
overlooking how I'm mistreating myself,
yeah, yeah,
and the impact that this is having on me, that I am having on myself, my reaction. When I would work with parents, I say, avoid getting so caught up in your child's behavior that you're
yeah,
looking how you're reacting to that behavior, because
yeah.
often your reaction could be more destructive than the behavior.
Very well said. Yes,
And it just brings to mind like a triangle. Izzy used to just think in terms of triads, right?
yes.
So it'd be like right state, if we have a triangle, right
hmm
state, right perception, right function,
hmm There you go.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right state,
hmm
calm you centered. That allows you to have right perception, accurate awareness of how you're functioning out there, and then you can function correctly, constructively, uh,
hmm
in your behalf and other people's behalf. Whenever we're maintaining an orderly, harmonious energy field, I feel we're serving the world.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. I seem to draw events and situations and people to feel more harmonious. I mean, it's almost like the typical thing you sometimes hear where somebody just seems to be in the flow, the Tao, they call it, and things just open up. And every so often you bump into something that doesn't, you go, good, I'm glad it didn't open up. I'll go this way. I
Yeah,
mean, or
yeah,
what, if you
it's
can. Yeah.
learning how to deal with Saturn.
Yeah. Saturn energy.
Because Saturn, with Saturn energy, you come against a limitation or a barrier, and
Yeah.
instead of relating to it as a blockage, you can relate to it as a guardrail.
Yes.
Like, oh, I just have to, where is the opening? And if I just cooperate with it, I find that where I can go is at least as good as where I wanted to go.
I know today I was feeling this morning a little more congested energetically, a little bit slower, and modified my day. I adjusted the day to the energy level that I was feeling.
Mhm.
And the more I did that, the better I felt. That feeling sort of evaporated. I don't know if I was picking up something in the night, doesn't really matter. The point is that was the energy I had to deal with. So modified I don't have to do this now. I don't have to do that now. I can do a little bit.
I think we learned to do that kind of, through Isidore's work and our own
Oh yeah.
in that work. I think we kind of learned to do that almost instinctively now.
Yeah, it's getting
We're
more and more that
constantly
way.
making choices that
Hmm.
keep my energy at a high level and avoiding making those choices, no matter how logical or whatever other people's expectations are. I'm not going to go down.
Yeah.
I'm not going to choose. I'm going to work on maintaining right state for right perception and right function, right
It's
speech.
not, I mean, maybe when I'm, my teens, 20s, and 30s, it was happening every day. I was out of right state, at least once a day, if not more. And as I've gotten older and I practice the organics and apply it day to day in every little situation, it gets to be less and less. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's completely gone. You can still get triggered from time to time, but you learn from it faster.
The way I talk about it in my classes is it's great to have a to-do list that you
Hmm.
know what you want to get done, but it's possibly even more important to have a to-be list.
Yes.
What is the state I want to be in as I'm doing these things? And I'm not going to sacrifice my state for the action.
Hmm.
As my state goes down, my energy goes down, no matter how hard I'm working to create order in my life, my state is undermining it and generating disorder in my life.
And you restated sort of what I was doing this morning in the sense that I modified my day. My to-do list actually got modified. I don't have to do that. That's not the territory. That's just a map.
Right.
So you know what? I have the freedom to adjust. And
Yeah.
then you retain right state, and it's very rewarding energetically.
Yeah. In most situations, I
Yeah.
think your state is more important than the action.
Hmm.
Because action taken from a depleted state, from an angry state, from a chaotic state,
Yeah.
it's kind of it loses its power, loses its
Hmm.
effectiveness. And so the next line is so emotional thinking, the
Yeah.
animal's way, bestialize the mind. In hell, one does stray.
Well, I think we described some of the hellish things you can experience.
That's right.
And it gets to be a habit. You literally can live
It makes life feel like hell.
hell. I mean,
It really
one
does.
thing after another can happen and you just live in it. Just
Yeah.
really a sad state. Just
More and
really
more
just,
suffering,
yeah, suffering.
in the discordant conditions of chaos.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and you manifest people in your life, who reflect your state. So if you're angry and frustrated and sad and lonely and just consumed by all these emotionalism, then the people around you are consumed by emotionalism. That's more chaos coming into your field, more things falling apart.
Gives you plenty of people to blame it on too, not you. Yeah.
And then and then and then what happens when you have, scores of people, functioning with emotional thinking,
Hmm.
or thousands of people or
Oh,
millions of people,
you go
all
into, yeah.
stirred up
Mm.
emotionally
We have
and
mob
thoughts.
psychology. Yeah.
Yeah, they're thinking about what makes them angry. They're thinking about what makes them fearful. I was, and I've shared this story many times with folks. I was walking across, past a lawn, and there was a sign in the lawn that said, "If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention." And I wanted to say, if you're outraged, you're not paying attention.
Yeah. It's a sign of the times.
In more ways than no pun intended, right?
Yeah, right. It was intended.
So emotional thinking, the animal's way, bestialize the mind.
Yeah.
Bestialize the mind. It's like if you continue with this emotional pattern of thinking, your thought patterns get lower and lower. And all you can
Yeah.
think about is like getting back at people, or
Hmm.
angry, destructive ideas can come in,
Yeah.
wild, irrational ideas can come in and run your mind and run your life. And the bestialization of it is you can actually lose the sensitivity to
Hmm.
higher frequencies. And
Yeah.
all you can be run by are those animal emotions.
And
And then,
you think that's the way it is. You know, that's how life is.
right.
Sometimes if you're in a situation where you're around them and they hear something different that's calmer and more relaxed, that's not how life is.
Yeah.
No, you're
Yeah. I had
crazy.
one
You're
conversation.
you live in pie in the you're a pie in the sky thinker.
Yeah. I
Anyway.
had a conversation with someone who was considering working with me. And she said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm in bliss. I feel
Yeah.
like, every day's paradise. And sometimes I look around and it feels like I could have died and I feel like I'm in heaven. There's so much beauty and harmony in my life." She said, "Not interested."
Wow. I love how now that's a good example of bright state
Yeah, yeah, because it was
in
like,
daily.
there's no way that that's realistic to her,
Right. Yeah.
right? The only thing realistic to her is bestial clawing your
Mhm.
way through, pushing people out of the way,
Yeah.
trying to
Compete.
push you out of the way.
Yeah. Overcome, do better than the other guy or
Right.
gal.
Ego,
Yeah.
ego, ego.
Yeah.
All right. And then we get into some good news.
Yeah.
Reason, attention, and orders light heal body and mind and make everything right.
That's pretty much the theme we've been talking about over the last minutes.
Yeah.
When you do this, reason meaning there's a lot of ways to interpret the word reason, but you're not being unreasonable.
Mhm.
You're looking for life fact reasons, not made up reasons.
You're reasoning by coordinates.
There we go. Reasoning by
You
coordinates.
might consider the like what we've spoken about in an earlier show, the STEM
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
You're considering before you do something, what is the space, time, energy, matter, coordinates
Hmm.
involved in that situation?
Yeah.
Or reasoning in, well, if I say this to this person, it might hurt them because of what I know they've been through in previous life
Mm.
experience.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not best to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're guided by reason, by attention, that's like right gaze, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And you're functioning and feeling yourself in an orderly way,
Hmm.
functioning in an orderly way, feeling, are you able to detect, Vitfan would use the word guna, but are you able to just detect the feeling of when you're radiating order?
Yeah. The different gunas is a different kind of energy. It's a word for energy, basically, kinds of energy,
Yeah.
frequencies of energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can feel when you're in an orderly state, you can
Hmm.
feel when you're in a chaotic state. And so when you're
And,
paying attention and you're
hmm.
reasoning by coordinates and you're functioning in an orderly way, you can actually heal your body,
Hmm.
right? Or at least stop making it sick. You can heal your mind
Yeah.
so that you can think clearly and sanely and constructively, right? And then it makes everything right. Your
Oh,
world is a reflection of your energy state and how
mhm.
you're functioning.
And order is light means you can experience, you can call it the spiritual frequencies, which include understanding, compassion, joy, happiness, consideration,
Intuition,
creativity, yeah,
intuition.
intuition.
Yeah,
And so you might call that light represents those frequency bands
that's
that
right.
are available to you because you have that sensitivity to register them.
So we create our own heaven,
Hmm.
our own hell through how we speak.
Yeah.
Unconscious speech, hell. Conscious speech, heaven.
And you can see this sometimes. I know people like to watch television, and sometimes they watch movies and stuff like that that may have a lot of that in it. As you move along the path, at least for me, I turn those things off. I really don't want to go into that too much relative to what I'm into.
A chaotic,
Uh,
violent
yeah,
energy.
I just don't want to do that, especially at night.
Right.
So you start to choose what you're going to put your attention on more and more
Yeah.
when
Based on how you want to feel
yeah.
and how you want to feel, based on how you want to function. What are the results you want in life? You want order, harmony, understanding, cooperation.
Hmm.
Those are manifestations of an orderly force field when
Yeah.
you speak with awareness of tone in right state.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's quite a poem there, Bob. I feel like getting in more of a right state.
Yeah, we
But
just spent 55 minutes on like a 10-line poem of Isidore's. Just
exactly, yeah. I mean, uh, and it's in life's cosmic dance. That's one line. I don't know if we talked about that one line. It's
what
in
was,
life's cosmic dance, line number 3.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Order the
Yeah,
animals inanimate in life's cosmic dance.
we can definitely do 5 minutes on that, Bob.
Well, yeah, well,
It is a dance. It has a creative flow to it. To me, I relate it to the Tao in the sense of you're feeling the moment you go this way, you go that way, you don't go any way. Go forward, you go backward.
represented by this card in the tarot. There's
There
the
you
cosmic
go.
dance.
Yeah,
Where
cosmic dance.
yeah, where you're living in rhythmically,
Hmm.
you're in the flow of the order. What does the word cosmos mean? Order and beauty. You're
And of
functioning
course,
in a cosmic way.
if you meet dancers who are relatively professional or high-level amateur, they experience that when they get to that level, whatever the dance they're doing, they're starting to feel like they're in the zone. Sometimes they use that word. Athletes and dancers will use that word because it mimics what it feels like. We, with organics, we want to do this no matter what we're doing.
Well,
But
Isidore used to say, you could be a Democrat, you could be a Republican, but you're still a cosmocrat.
yeah, exactly. Cosmocrat.
The cosmocracy, and
Right.
working with the cosmos, which you could call like working with the Tao,
Yeah.
being in that conscious, harmonious, rhythmic flow
Mhm.
in daily living.
And I have to say, it is kind of like a dance. Uh, it's a good analogy, I guess you could say, or
Yeah.
metaphor for living a life of rhythmic alternation and consciousness, all
Well,
the things we touched about.
the word universe
Yeah.
is one song,
Hmm.
one verse, one song.
Yeah.
And if we can put music into our life, at some point we'll talk about, Isidore would talk about, putting harmony, octaves,
Yes.
rhythm, all the elements that go into music
Yes.
go into the feel of how you function.
Hmm.
Bring a kind of a musical, rhythmic way of functioning,
Yep.
and that raises your energy, and that raises the harmony of your circumstances.
Yeah. 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 The whole music thing, of course, mathematics, music, physics are all related there.
Geometry.
Vibration. Yeah.
Yeah.
Geometry.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here we are at the end of number 15, is this?
I love
Episode
it.
15? Uh,
Yeah. Diez y siete. No, that's next time.
so
Quince.
what would you
Quince.
like to what would you like to close with? What
I
would
would
you
like to repeat what I've said before, and we both have said this. Practice, practice, practice. You're probably up, anywhere from 10 to 16 hours a day. Start off with 5 minutes.
Mhm.
Pick something you've read that we talked about or suggested, something we've talked about,
Mhm.
and try it. Stick with it. If it sort of backs off and you kind of forget, keep going.
Mhm.
Give it practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, during the years I was with Isidore, I might write down on the back of a business card,
Yeah.
conscious tone.
Hmm.
And I would look at it every, 10 minutes, half hour, just to
Yes.
remind me, like right now, I'm practicing being more aware of my tone of voice
Hmm.
and just putting that into practice, even for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it starts to
Yes.
make the transformation and you see how it works.
Yeah, when you have the experience yourself, it's not just a bunch of words or reading a book or hearing a bit, watching a video or something, or somebody gave you an inspirational talk. You're experiencing what it is, and that tends to propel you forward in a very natural way.
I think you become a new being.
Yeah.
On that note,
But hey, another wonderful
yeah,
Wednesday evening.
time flies when you're having fun.
Okay, Bob.
Okay, Greg, until
We'll
next
be
time,
in contact. Yeah, until next time.
adios, my friend.
Adios. Take care.